Hey guys, welcome to another recap of The Amazing Race. Last time you remember, Dave and Connor, the dad, he ruptured his Achilles tendon, or at least he thought so. So they had a medic check him out, and sure enough, the medic thought it was pretty bad, but they couldn't do a sonogram, aka ultrasound there, so they had to wait until they got to Tahiti because the next stop of the race is Christchurch, New Zealand, and it took several flights to get there. It just so happens to be Phil's hometown, so respect. Dave and Connor get the express pass from the creepy couple. They don't use it right away. Everybody ends up in Tahiti. They took different flights, but everything was closed when they got there. So Dad and Connor get the ultrasound, and yes, it is torn. So he gets fitted up with some crutches and a boot, and he's going to be a trooper. He's going to try and continue with the race. So there's a little alliance forming. The creeper couple, you know, the daters, the YouTube couple, and the roller moms. So everybody's on the same flight to Auckland. But then when they get from Auckland to Christchurch, there's 3 separate flights, half an hour apart, and then there's Alabama. They're like, why isn't everyone making reservations on the phone? And sure enough, their flight was like the next day. Alright, so they screwed up. But, you know, on The Amazing Race, there's always great equalizers. So they end up having to drive to a gorge for the next part and get a number for jet boats, which aren't open anymore. So there's the great equalizer. They were all pretty much there at the same time, except they had to take a number for the boats. So they got to camp overnight there. They had a little tent for them where they could, you know, not have to sleep outside completely. So it's a detour when they got to the where they were going on the speedboats. They had to take an ATV to rev it up or reel it in. So amazingly, Dave and Connor, the dad and son, were in first place. And they didn't use the express pass yet, and he's in a boot. Crazy. Alright, so they're pretty determined. So rev it up was you had to drive this race car obstacle course in a vintage car in a combined under 83 seconds. It was very challenging. Max and Katie took forever trying to do this, and it wasn't her that had the problem, it was him, and she was kind of pissed. And the dad and the son originally were going to do the car race, but he couldn't drive a stick with the boot on, so they had to switch over to the reel it in, which was use a rod and reel to catch 2 fish over 12 inches. So the only other couple that did that was Alabama, and they did it pretty quickly. But Dave and Connor, however, decided to use the express pass for that because they weren't getting any bites. So the next stop, Mount Hutt Station, which was kind of difficult to get to because there was also a Mount Hutt ski area. Max and Katie and the hockey boys got lost trying to find it, and it set them back a little bit. But once they finally got to the right place, it was a roadblock. It's a schmozzle race, and if you don't know what that is, I'm not sure I still know what that is. You and a dog, and you are dressed up in a burlap sack, some like welly boots, and not much else, some white shorts it look like. Go through this obstacle course on foot. You get covered in molasses and feathers. You have to collect eggs in your hands. That's how you carry them. You don't have any basket or anything. And you have to deliver them to the finish unbroken. And you have to do that for a dozen eggs. So obviously it took multiple tries to get a full dozen. So it was pretty time consuming. But Dave and Connor managed to do it and were the first ones at the pit stop, which was Terrace Downs. Looked like a golf course. So they won a trip for 2 to Bangkok for coming in first, and Phil whips out another clue and is like, the race is continuing right now, and they were just like, OS, because he needs to rest. He's really pushed it. So are they going to continue in the race? The race next week continues in Bali, but are the father-son going to be there? Uh-oh, hot dog, I sure don't know. So it's one of those to be continued ones. So until next week, I guess. Much love.